Welcome everyone to Things Around 8. Dear friends, in this video we will talk about the Russian threat of nuclear retaliation, reinforced by several high-ranking members of Vladimir Putin's regime, and why the world needs to take it seriously. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any news. On Friday, May 31st, several high-ranking members of the Russian regime, such as Dmitry Peskov, Vladimir Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Medvedev, former Russian president and vice president of the Russian Security Council, and several Russian jurists, diplomats and parliamentarians reacted to the relaxation of the rules on the use of Western weapons by Ukraine, with several countries such as the United Kingdom, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark and the United States relaxing the limitations, allowing, with some reservations, the use of their weapons against Russian military targets inside Russia. According to these countries and NATO, with Russia opening new fronts of combat by attacking Ukraine from within Russian territory, Ukraine, under international law, should have full freedom to counterattack Russian military targets on Russian soil that are directly or indirectly participating in these attacks, such as the one currently taking place north of Kharkiv. According to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, Ukraine had detected a large buildup of Russian troops, vehicles, weapons and ammunition along the border between Belgorod and Kharkiv for weeks. However, due to the limitations imposed by their Western allies, the Ukrainians were unable to reach these concentrations, allowing Russia to launch a major offensive on May 10th against the northern Ukrainian Kharkiv Oblast. This Russian offensive was the final straw for Ukraine's allies, who finally decided to ease up on the Ukrainians' use of their weapons. And it was in response to this that many high-ranking members of Putin's regime reacted with fury, with many of them, like Medvedev, threatening to use nuclear weapons against Ukraine if the Ukrainians actually began to target Russian positions inside Russia with Western weapons. But this is not an empty threat, and the world really needs to take it seriously. As I said in a recent video here on the channel, Russia used this limitation imposed by the West to gain a tremendous tactical advantage, positioning large weapons and ammunition depots and also military bases along the entire Ukrainian border, with Putin feeling relatively comfortable and safe, because he knew that Ukraine could not use the weapons it receives from the West against these positions. The greatest example of this was the aforementioned Russian offensive against northern Kharkiv, which, as I said, was only launched because Russia was able to freely concentrate, on its side of the border, a gigantic number of troops, weapons, vehicles and ammunition. But now, with the relaxation of these restrictions, all these Russian positions will become legitimate military targets for Western weapons in Ukrainian hands. This creates a very serious problem for Putin. How to protect these positions? Based on battlefield observation, various sources report that more than 90% of all Russian air defenses are now deployed in Ukrainian territories under Russian military occupation to protect Russian military depots and bases in those areas. This can be easily confirmed by the numerous videos that appear almost every day showing Ukrainian drones flying freely over Russian airspace, with some of them flying up to 1,500 kilometers to target and damage Russian refineries. With virtually all of his air defenses in Ukraine, how will Putin be able to protect his positions on Russian territory along the Ukrainian border? This is the main reason for the angry reaction of the leading members of the Russian regime. Reactions that, as I mentioned, even involve threats of using nuclear weapons. This brings us to the second question. Why should the world take these Russian threats seriously? As I have said in other videos, by law, Russia can only use nuclear weapons in two situations: in response to a nuclear attack or in the face of a real threat to its territorial integrity. Therefore, although Ukraine does not attack Russia with nuclear weapons, limiting itself to using conventional weapons, if these Ukrainian strikes against targets inside Russian territory are well executed and cause extensive damage to Russian military infrastructure, Putin may see this as a real threat to Russia's territorial integrity, and may use this interpretation to justify small, quote-unquote, tactical nuclear strikes. Unlike strategic nuclear bombs, with a yield of several hundred kilotons, capable of pulverizing entire cities in a fraction of a second, tactical nuclear bombs, with a yield of a few kilotons, were created to destroy specific targets, such as military bases and depots. A single small tactical nuclear bomb has the same destructive effect as thousands of conventional bombs, such as those that Russia regularly drops on Ukraine. Therefore, a few would be enough to completely destroy all Ukrainian depots whose location is known. Due to the comparatively limited destructive effect of small tactical nuclear bombs, these bombs, if used only against Ukrainian military installations, would have a minimal side effect on the civilian population, and Putin could use this as an argument for a limited tactical nuclear strike against known Ukrainian depots and military bases. Therefore, Russian threats, with Medvedev explicitly saying on Friday, May 31st, that they are not bluffing, must be taken seriously, and the world must be prepared for something that until now was considered unimaginable: a nuclear attack against a non-nuclear nation in response to retaliatory attacks with conventional weapons. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any news.